This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome to the first inaugural edition of Top Shelf. I am Mike Putnam, and I've got my buddy here with me.
I am Greg Bishop.
Good to have you here, Greg.
Good to have you here, sir.
I first and foremost got to thank the guys over at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, Adam and John. It's kind of funny that I got to know them a couple years ago, actually got in to see them, and if you listen to them regularly, you'll know that they had me on for a full episode of basically my own last year.
Wreck.
Oh, it was horrible. It was a train wreck. It was so good that they, kept in touch with me. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very cool of them to do. Class act guys. So I really thank them for letting me do this, giving me a shot to do this. It's funny because it came to be if the Flick Chat app, which we just brought you into, and you've been getting in on it, the discussions there are a blast. So if you haven't used the Flick Chat app, you got to get involved with it because it's basically all the guys that listen to Detroit Sports, all the listeners get in on it. The discussions are always funny. They're always good, and they're ongoing about a whole bunch of different topics. But anyway, I kept pestering John to talk more hockey. I just kept saying, you got to talk more. You got to talk more about the Red Wings. And out of nowhere, one day he said, fine then, dude, do it. Record it, send it to me. So I thought he was kidding, but lo and behold, he wasn't. So here I am. Long-time Red Wings, lifetime Red Wings fan, grew up just north of Detroit, same town where Dylan Larkin is from in Waterford. Actually went to the same high school as my wife. So I am here just to talk Red Wings hockey. Hopefully there's enough people out there like me that love to talk about the Red Wings, even in the off-season. I don't know about you, but these NHL playoffs have been insane, and it's even given you the bit of the hockey bug, Greg. I mean, you've been on board the whole way.
Well, I'm a hockey fan.
Right.
I mean, we are located in Tampa, Florida. I am from Tampa.
Right.
So my father is from Michigan, just outside of Bellevue, which is just near Charlotte, Battle Creek.
Yep.
So before we had sports teams here, I was always a default Michigan fan. I was a Tigers fan. I remember watching Jack Morris win the series with them. I was a Red Wings fan. I remember rooting for them before the Lightning showed up. I was a Pistons fan. So I do have. I mean, go blue. So I got roots in Detroit and Michigan sports too. So
and that's why I allow you to be friends with me. For sure.
Well, that's one of the reasons. That and because you're so beautiful.
Well, yeah. What can you do? So here I am. Red Wings. I know it's been a rough go for the past decade, 10 years. But I mean, let's be honest. We got to be really spoiled for a long time, where we had a great team that contended. For any of us that are around, we're pretty much all adults within the same age group. We've seen 4 Stanley Cup parades. There's a lot of teams out there like the Blues that are playing now in the conference finals that haven't seen one. So we're a spoiled group. And when things went south, it went south hard. And it seems like a lot of people have just turned into more passive fans, which I get. But let's face it, if you're a Lions fan, you still root for them diehard, but they turn around and screw us every single year. But the Red Wings to me, they're a huge deal. And I talk about them all year. I every single year, like you said, I live in Tampa now, which I'm not going to lie, the weather's nice, but I do miss having the home teams to watch and talk about with people. Actually made my way back not too long ago to see Little Caesars Arena. Was a great time. Got to see the arena for the first time. Got to see an exciting win, which was odd last year. But the biggest thing in the offseason has been the Yzerman deal. And I know with us being down here in Tampa, it was a big deal. I know, Greg, you can speak firsthand that Tampa fans were pissed. I mean, they were upset that he left because they knew what was going to happen.
Well, like I said, being a de facto Michigan sports teams fan, I remember watching Stevie Y with those cups that you referred to there.
Right.
It's rare in any sport, no matter what you're talking, that you have a GM that can put stuff together. There's a lot of being a GM to picking the right guys for your team. But there's a lot to a GM that gets the right guys that are willing to buy into your system, a.k.a. the Patriot way, as in the New England Patriots.
Right.
And they'll do it for less than what they can get somewhere else because they want to be a part of a machine that wins. And that's what he built down here. He's got a lot of players, Steven Stamkos, that he has got at a lower price.
Right.
But now you guys have that, which I don't think has happened with Detroit in a while.
Well, it hasn't happened in a while, and it's funny you mentioned that. I remember the year that I think it was 2002 when we had that Hall of Fame team. There was 8 Hall of Famers on that team, and Steve Yzerman was instrumental in that.
8 dead guys playing hockey?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool.
They were anything but dead that year. That team was insane.
They were on fire.
I argue anybody to tell me a better team, top to bottom roster for 1 year than that 2002 Detroit Red Wings team.
The Avengers.
Aside from them.
Oh, okay.
I remember in the offseason, I think it didn't come out until after they had won the Cup, Yzerman actually came in and wanted to renegotiate his contract to get those Hall of Famers on this team to win, which very similar to what you mentioned with the Patriots, which Brady has done. You'd never hear about him being the highest paid player. That mentality of winners, and let's just skip past all the sentimental stuff with Yzerman because I don't think that's the part that gets missed. The legacy is amazing. But what people need to be more excited about, I've done a lot of research on this the past few days, the reason why Yzerman has gotten to be the biggest name when it comes to being a general manager is the moves that he made here in Tampa. Now, I'm not a Tampa fan. I take a lot of crap from Tampa fans. I was at the Game 7 when this whole down thing started in the playoffs when we lost to Tampa in Game 7. It's been a rough go being a Detroit fan down here. I've gotten bashed constantly. But if you look back at the moves that he's made, the earliest ones that I can remember and was a big deal is when he broomed out Vinny LeCavier and Marty St. Louis. I mean, fans were in an uproar. Do you remember when that happened?
I do remember when that happened. And being a pragmatic sports fan, you got to get what you pay for.
Right.
You have to. Now, sports overall, sometimes you're paying too much for it, and that's something that doesn't happen at certain franchises that seem to continually compete.
Right.
But Yzerman showed up, and he's like, you know what? Hey, St. Louis, you're a great player, but you're making $187 million this year, and we can't do it because we've got other guys that we got to play. You cannot skate 60 minutes a game. You're not LeBron, so.
Yeah, he's made some moves, and this is just a highlight. I mean, obviously, within 30 or 40 minutes, I can't go into the whole thing, but the things that really stand out are the Victor Hedman contract. He got an 8-year, $63 million deal. I mean, that's a reasonable contract for an arguable top-tier defenseman. He kept Steven Stamkos from leaving. I mean, that's I remember this. It wasn't that long ago. The whole city was on hold waiting to hear what Stamkos was going to do.
Yeah.
He managed to keep him. He kept him from going to Toronto. He got him at a reasonable price for a superstar.
Yeah, $10 million a year, and he legitimately was one of the best players in hockey this year as far as points went.
Yeah, except for one Nikita Kucherov, which we'll get to. Ben Bishop, he traded away Ben Bishop, and at the time you had this young kid Vasilevsky, and then lo and behold, in his first full season, he's nominated for the Vezina. I mean, that's a great move. And Bishop playing in Dallas, I mean, he's a legitimate starter.
He was a legitimate starter when he was in Tampa.
A little injury prone.
Well, yeah, but he was a legitimate starter. Having a general manager that has the ability to recognize talent and work numbers, I think that's the number one thing you got to have.
Right, and to expand on that, especially me personally and a lot of, the other Detroit Red Wings fans that are hopefully listening, that's the thing that a lot of us got soured on Ken Holland because he was giving out contracts to guys that did not deserve it. For one that comes to mind, Justin Abdelkader. This is a third or fourth line guy, and he's getting paid, I believe, over $6 million a year. Those contracts have crippled this team in such a salary cap era that those are mistakes you can't make. You can't miss those contracts on average players, and that's, in my opinion, has really hurt this team. Another thing that Yzerman did, which, again, Ken Holland missed on, he drafted Nikita Kucherov in the second round at the 58th spot, which means Detroit passed on him twice. Now, hindsight is always 20/20. There was a diamond in the rough, but he ended up being who he was. But Yzerman didn't miss there. He drafted him. And everybody that even remotely watches hockey saw what Kucherov did this year. Kuch was the man in hockey this year, not Sidney Crosby. It wasn't John Tavares. It was Nikita Kucherov. That guy put up over, I believe, 100 points this year.
Yeah, it was. But it's not just this year. Kucherov
right.
was a key cog in that machine last year. He was a key cog in that machine the year before. So this is a guy, Detroit is getting a general manager who understands we got to pick the best player, we got to pick the best player for us.
Right.
You take a guy like Kucherov and put him next to Stamkos. Is he the same player somewhere where he doesn't have a Stamkos? Who knows? But he said, hey, these guys might work really well together or on opposite lines from each other.
I mean, another thing that happened was the trade in 2017 with Jonathan Drouin when he went to Montreal. They got Mikhail Sergachev. Drouin was a minus 28. Sergachev was a plus 11. I mean, that's a great trade. Drouin's good, but Sergachev ended up being very, very solid and productive. And so basically my point is Yzerman's done very well for himself and made such a name for himself in a short amount of time. Because let's be honest, a brand new GM in the span of 9 years, I think the total is he's been in Tampa, he's put together a machine. Yes, they got bounced in the first round this year, but that's not Yzerman's fault. He put that team together.
Doo-doo occurs. Sometimes you're just overmatched.
It's going to happen, and that's the beautiful thing about hockey is a 1 got beat by an 8, but to me, the NHL, the seeds don't mean nothing because it doesn't matter if it's an 8, 7, 6, 5, or what. You're going to play a good, hungry team, and they ran into a hungry Columbus team, and they just got out-Tampa'd, really.
Yeah, they did. They did.
So here's my hope. My hope is that it's tough to get over the legacy of what Steve Yzerman has Detroit. He's a legend. He's arguably the best player the Detroit Red Wings have ever had in their franchise, right next to probably just under Gordie Howe. That's an amazing accomplishment to say as a player, especially to play his whole career there, drafted at 18 years old. I mean, he's on the Mount Rushmore of the city of Detroit, if you ask me.
Well, remember when Steve Yzerman was playing for the Red Wings, hockey was not what it is today. It didn't get the coverage on TV that it got. There was no huge hockey deal. Everybody still knew who Steve Yzerman was.
Right.
It was, he was like the NHL poster boy. He really was. He was a star in a league that was blooming.
Well, not only that, he was also one of those players younger in his career that I believe 1 year touched 100 points, but he adapted his game to a team game, bought into the system, and the rest is history. But the main thing and the reason that I get so excited, and I constantly am always making Detroit remarks and hockey remarks and stuff in our Flick chat groups, and Adam cracks up at all the stuff that I say, like the one we had today where I came in and I said, are there any other diehard Red Wings fan here, or is it just me? And then Adam was cracking up saying, dude just came in here like Rambo giving chair shots. But I mean, and I wasn't meaning to be shitty about it. I was just saying, like, I'm so excited about what's coming. It just feels like everyone else is just kind of like, but again, it's hard for me to gauge that being down here. But talking about it, hopefully I'll get some interaction with people that are listening. I'm excited. And, with the draft coming up, and I wanted to touch on this as well, too, we're drafting 6th. It's not a bad spot. I mean, we got Philip Zadina last year. Didn't get his opportunity that he probably should have this year, which, again, has been a staple of Detroit for years, and I'm hoping that changes with burying these guys in the minors for too long.
The good news is the Red Wings get to draft 6th. The better news is the Blackhawks get to draft 3rd.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that crap.
Oh, we're not supposed to talk about that?
No, we're not supposed to talk about that, because even Adam and I believe, both agree on that there's some backdoor deals going on between Bettman and Stan Bowman. I'm sorry. The draft, to me, it's a sham. Yeah. How that happened. It should be if you finish last, you draft first, and 100%. So on. It should be
this whole tanking idea. We've talked about it before.
Yep.
Nope. Nobody tanks.
No.
And if you do, you should have a commissioner that's got the balls to say you guys are tanking.
Yeah, and it's I mean that's a whole. Maybe we'll get into that in the next episode. But it's I'm excited. There's a lot of hope for this season coming up. People should be excited. There's a draft coming up, and even though Detroit drafts at 6th, I think that it's just going to add to a strong core. And I know a lot of people are going to scoff at it, saying, "Yeah, but they've been so bad for like 10." Even John messaged me today, and he's like, "It's hard to be a diehard fan when they've basically sucked for the past 10 years." Which is true, but if you're still a Lions fan, you've got 50 years of sucking, and you still go on Sundays, which baffles me. But that being said, I'm still the guy that buys the center ice package every year. I watch damn near every game. It's rare that I miss even part of a game or any games during the whole 82-game season, but that's me. I love the game. I love the Red Wings, and it's it's just exciting for me to see, especially with the players we have that are young that are now playing and playing well.
Let me touch on that whole we haven't had anything to root for in 10 years mentality thing right there. Okay?
Again, that's just because we're spoiled.
Well,
rotten.
It is. But that's something that I feel a true sport fan needs to understand. Okay, I was born in Tampa. I've lived in Tampa my whole life. Okay, as we talk, you're going to understand. I am a Buccaneers fan, Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan to the core.
Right.
I am also a New England Patriots fan. I watch the Patriots because I don't want to waste my time watching the Bucs. Okay,
right.
Now, as Red Wings fans, you guys have something that there are a lot of teams that don't have. You have 4 cups. We have 4 cups. We're all Red Wings fans involved in this. When your team goes through a lull, no matter what your team is, you cannot be a fair weather fan, because if you are, as far as I'm concerned, you're a piece of crap. You wear your colors whether you're winning or you're losing. You can be mad at the front office. You can say that bastard drafted.
We have been. Absolutely.
You can be angry about it, but you still need to back your team. You are a diehard fan, win or lose, because that's what a diehard fan is. A fan who roots and goes to the games when they're winning is a fair weather fan.
Right.
And it's Hockey Town, for God's sakes.
It's in the name.
It's Hockey Town.
Right.
Anytime you get to watch the team or group or whatever it is that you're watching win, you need to celebrate that. Because you need to step back after that win and realize how many people have never celebrated that fact.
Yeah, I mean, think of how the fans in St. Louis feel right now. They're one series away of going to a cup final. I mean, and that city has never, ever seen a Stanley Cup. Ever. Like, in their history, in their franchise history.
Didn't we say the other day that in the 80s, only 3 teams won the cup?
Yeah.
So
it's
you're
crazy.
upset. If you don't be upset, say, hey, look, this is what we got going on. You need to put your jerseys on. You need to put your hat on. You need to say, we got Red Wings hockey coming in the fall,
right,
and we're going to kick some ass.
And for me, and again, I know I'm probably in the minority, or it's kind of like that sleeping thing, like those goddamn love bugs that we have here in Florida that only come around twice a year.
People in Michigan, you get to shovel snow, we get love bugs.
Yeah, it's rough. But I remember the summer of '97. I remember that summer going into those playoffs, and this team hadn't won anything since before any of us were alive.
Is that Bryan Adams song?
Yeah, right. It was that summer. I can't even. I mean, and those of you that are listening, I'm sure you all remember it as well too. You could not go anywhere in that whole part of the state without seeing car flags, Red Wings logo car flags, jerseys, T-shirts. Back when Sports Talk Radio was amazing, the station that we had at the time, it's still there. It's called WDFN, but those Sports Talk days, I mean, was amazing. Red Wings were everything everywhere, and that playoff season was a ride that was just amazing, and I know people remember it. It was breathtaking because it was everywhere. You could not go anywhere, and the Red Wings were not the center of attention. And then when they won, I went to the parade, and there was over 1 million people in downtown Detroit on that blazing hot day in jerseys, in pullovers, in hoodies, in T-shirts, in face paint. It was incredible, and I know people remember that, and I still do, and that's why I get all giddy about it. And I can talk about the Red Wings like that all year because that was like a little taste of drugs. Like, you got it. We didn't just get a taste. We got shovels full of it, 4 cups. That's insane, and that's what I mean by being incredibly spoiled. You're a Patriots fan. You're in that group too. A Super Bowl to you guys is like, yep, we did it again. Once you get that and then it goes away, it's rough, but it makes you want it even more, and it makes me want to watch the team more. And that's why I'm sitting here today talking about the Red Wings the way that I am.
It's rough.
In May.
It's rough, but you should appreciate it because let's be honest, as a Patriots fan, we're never going to see anything like this again.
Right.
But I remember watching the Patriots when I had a bag over my head in my living room because they were that bad. But I was still a Patriots fan.
Right.
So to get to experience that, the people in Tampa this year, I think they were. I kind of think they deserved the playoff thing because it was just like, we're number one.
Yep. There was a lot of, not all, because I have some very good friends down here that are diehard Bolts fans that were not like this. But the casual fan talk down here was like, oh yeah, we're going to be in the conference finals. We're going to be in the Stanley Cup finals. It was a foregone conclusion, and then they get bounced in 4 games. It was like an episode of The Walking Dead down here.
It was.
And I was like,
really
well,
was.
you
signs and banners all over the city.
Not my good friends, of course, but everyone else was like, you kind of deserved it, because if you don't watch hockey enough to know that nothing is a given, I don't care if you are the President's Trophy winner, you're going to have to fight for everything you get in the playoffs, no matter what seed you are.
Always.
So, if you haven't been able to tell by now, I am still giddy about the Red Wings. The Yzerman signing, but more than that, as I've told you, why Yzerman is going to be a great general manager, because he already is. He's established. But more so than that, the players that we have in place, and I know that the 8 to 10 game winning streak we had at the end of the year really pissed off a lot of people because it dropped at the draft stat. Whatever. It is what it is. Can't change it.
Well, you still would have drafted behind Chicago.
No matter what. But you got players like Mantha, Larkin, Anthony Ciu, I can't even talk, Bertuzzi, Michael
Guys,
Rasmussen.
He's so happy and giddy to be doing what he's doing right now. He's speaking Arabic.
It shows. Rasmussen, and even Mike Green, which takes a lot of bat. But when he's healthy, he's a damn good defenseman. I mean, he's a damn good defenseman, and I hope they do keep him for that veteran leadership for at least another couple years. Philip Zadina, and there's still a couple guys in the minors that are probably going to get a fair shake now that we have a different general manager with hopefully a different line of thinking. And I don't know. I'm just really excited about it. And with the draft coming up, there's actually just a couple of names, and again, hopefully there's some people that are excited about it like I am, but drafting 6th, here's just a couple of the names that you're going to hear in the coming weeks up until the draft. Jack Hughes, forget it. That dream died a long time ago. He's going to New Jersey. Sorry about your luck, kid. You're going to New Jersey.
I was in New Jersey once.
Once. Capo, I love this name. Capo Caco is a right winger.
He was in that movie with Groucho and
that's him. He's basically, from everything that I've been seeing and reading, he's a lock to go number 2. Big. They're saying he's even more NHL ready than Hughes, body and size. Big, fast, strong skater, very good with the puck, makes a lot of space for his line mates. He just produces. They say he's actually producing more than Patrick Laine did at his same age, which that's a pretty good compliment. Number 3 is a center. His name's Kirby Dack. He's another big playmaker. Really good passing vision for someone his size and for his age, which is uncommon. But again, we'll see if that turns out at the NHL level. But usually these top tier guys do end up making some sort of an impact. 4, 5, and 6. There's Trevor Zegras. He's a center. He's an elite center that is actually overshadowed by Hughes because they play together on Team USA. But they said he is a very, very skilled center, good, and also plays really good defense, which, God, that is something Detroit needs. I can't tell you how many games we've seen this year, past couple years, where either we have a 2-goal lead going into the third period and we blow that lead, or even blow a goal lead with under a minute to go in the game, only to eventually lose in overtime, which seems like it happens way too much. So these defensemen that hopefully we get like later in the second and third rounds they pick up, I trust Yzerman to be able to pick out that talent, and I have no reason to think that that's not going to happen. And the point I'm really trying to make with all this is Wings fans should be excited. They should be pumped about what's going to happen, because I think that the worst is over. There's a good chance we may not make the playoffs next year, probably, but I think there's just as good a chance that they make the playoffs next year. And there's every reason to think that. I hope we get our goalie situation fixed, because I'm not sold on Jimmy Howard anymore. And then it really bites me in the ass to see Peter Mrazek in the conference finals with Carolina.
Right.
But I know.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's tough to swallow. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
I'm going to give you my take on the draft in any sport. I'm a hardcore fantasy football type guy, and I everybody talks about, well, who will you take if you get the first pick?
Right.
And I equate that along the lines with hockey, NFL, MLB. I don't think it's who you take in the first round. I think it's who you take in the second, third, fourth, and fifth round. You're drafting sixth. If you miss with the top 6 picks, you got issues. But you can get so much better, so much quicker by your third, fourth, and fifth round picks coming in and producing 100% more than what you're. You could literally take your third line in the third, fourth, and fifth round with your forwards and your centers, and your team. Let's say your third line is a -6.
Right.
And then you pick 3 guys in the third, fourth, and fifth round that you put on your third line, and now they're +12.
It's a big swing.
That's
huge.
huge.
You're right. And that's where I think the GMs, the really, really good GMs, are going to make all their money, and that's what's going to effectively make or break them. Is the GMs have their scouts in place. There's a I cannot remember his name, but there's a guy overseas that the Rings are on the verge of signing, that playing over in the Finland league or something like that is supposed to be really good. That those overseas scouts are vital too. But all these the first thing Steve Yzerman did when he got hired, he went to the under-18 tournament. He was getting ready for the draft, and you're right. The second, third, fourth rounds, like these guys that get picked then, like I said, Kucherov was a second-round pick, 58th pick. And look where he's at now. So those are just as important, more important really, than the first round, because, your gold mine is in the first round, but your gems are going to be later in the round.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited about the core. I think that the way they played later in the season last year was a really good glimpse. Now, another thing that has really been a hot topic was Blashill. And I'm not gonna lie. Anybody that listens to Doc and Jock, I know that people can call in and leave voicemails. I left one scathing.
You broke my phone. You texted me so hard about.
Oh, I was so pissed. When Ken Holland extended him for 2 years, this guy's he's not even 500 coach in the NHL in his 3-year tenure with the Wings now. It feels like a decade, but I know it's only been 3 or 4 years. I was livid about the extension of him. Now, the first thing Yzerman did, it came in, that was one of the topics, is he's going to honor the extension. Larkin has come out and completely backed him, saying he's helped me grow as a player. I guess they have a really rock-solid relationship. They're behind him. Steve Yzerman's going to be behind him, so I guess we got to be behind him. And what happens, and we go from there. The hope is that my overall, I guess the theme of this whole first episode is the hope that the mentality changes to somewhat to where with Holland it was be over loyal. With Yzerman, it's produce or you're gone. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I think that's what Wings fans in general are hoping for. Produce or you're not here. You're not going to get, a 6-year contract when you're putting up 12 goals a year.
For sure. Let me ask you this. I'll play devil's advocate for a second. Being a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, everybody's like, oh, we should fire that coach, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay, let's say you had the ability to fire Blashill tomorrow. Who would you hire?
I would immediately promote Dan Bielema, the assistant coach. Why? Because he won a cup with the Penguins. Who did he beat in the finals? Detroit. That's your assistant coach. I was banging that drum all season long when they were in horrible shape in last place. You have a Stanley Cup winning coach on your bench as an assistant, and things were going as bad as they were. I wanted, and I think a lot of people did, get rid of Blashill, promote this guy, see what he can do. He already won a cup with Pittsburgh. Granted, he had a very skilled team in Pittsburgh. It still takes a good coach to win a cup, no matter what. And I firmly believe that. So I thought that should have been the move. May it happen later? It could. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. The other hot topic is Pavel Datsyuk. It was made public big time last week that he was coming back to Detroit and he was going to discuss possibly coming back to the NHL because he's going to do one of two things. He's going to play in the NHL, and he's already said he will only play in the NHL if it's in Detroit. Or he's going to go back to his hometown team in Russia and finish out his career in the KHL with that team because his current contract is up. He can do whatever he wants. How that works with Phoenix's rights, which was a good move that Holland made, I don't know how they're going to get around that, but we'll see what happens. I think it's a great move as long as they don't overpay and overcontract him. No, he should not get $10 million for 2 years. No, he should come back here with I'm not going to say league minimum because he's still... He's a
mil a year for a couple of seasons.
Great player, but put some bonuses in there. If he finishes out the year or whatever.
And incentives are a great thing to do with a player of that age.
Because I think you take a player like Datsyuk, even now at 40 years old, you put him in with these kids that are playing now, he's going to make them better, and he may have a really decent year out of it. Hell, Jágr played till what? He was what? How old was he? 44?
He was like 41 or 42. He was older. He wasn't as old as Chara. I don't think. Was he?
He was up there, but he was still being productive in Florida. But we'll see. I like the sign. They haven't. It's like you haven't heard anything on it in the past couple days.
Watching Jaromir Jágr at the end made me sad, though.
Yeah, because that dude was legendary as well.
Yeah,
but
it was kind of like,
and not just because of the mullet. Yeah, but
oh no, the mullet was the best part.
Right. And then the last thing to wrap up this first inaugural episode of Top Shelf, John actually messaged me today and wanted me to give my overall grade of Ken Holland's career in Detroit, his tenure, which was 22 years. Basically a part of 4 cups. I think that's kind of exaggerated because he was an executive vice president or assistant vice president or whatever, assistant general manager, whatever it was, the first year in 97. But he had a hand in some Stanley Cups. How big was that hand? I don't know, because you had Scotty Bowman. I mean, stuff was getting done. His job, and Doc and Jock today said it perfectly, don't screw this up. It's like giving the keys to a kid to a nice car. Just don't crash. That's your job. Don't screw this up. And he did a great job of not screwing it up for a long time. But I think the last few years with these horrible contracts, extending Jeff Blashill, which I still firmly believe was a mistake, but he did it. I'm going to give him a C+ overall. It could have been better if you just go on all the winning and the accomplishments and the President's Cups and the conference finals and all that stuff, but I really think he tarnished his career the past few years with us getting as bad as we did with bad contracts. So I literally, yeah, he did great things, but he did horrible things as well. So I'll give him a C+.
I can't argue with you. One, I don't know the Red Wings as well as you do. But,
You're gonna.
No, I know. But also, when you talk about 10 years of mediocrity,
right?
I don't care what you did in 1990.
Yeah, show me what you did now.
It doesn't matter. Exactly. I mean, I don't remember the last time the Wings were in the playoffs.
It was 4 years ago, and we got swept in the first round.
Yeah. So
Jeff Blashill's career in the playoffs with the Wings is 0-4.
That's sad. So
right.
I think you're probably being generous with a C+.
Yeah, but again, we had some amazing runs, and he was part of that. So you got to give him credit. So I mean, hopefully he does horrible in Edmonton, which because he's not part of the team anymore. So whatever. So we'll go with that. But that being said, I'll wrap this first week up. Appreciate everybody listening. Again, just want to thank Detroit Sports Podcast and all the guys up there, especially Adam and John. I really appreciate this and going to have a good time with it for as long as I can. We're going to come back every other week. It's kind of the off season, so there's really, I could talk about it every week, but I know everyone else isn't like me, but we'll come back every other week. Also, too, just want to give a little bit of a plug. Greg and I have our own podcast. It's called Top 5 for Fighting. We do it every week. We talk about everything, sports, movies, entertainment, guy stuff that you usually get in trouble for talking about at work.
Hockey.
Yes, I do always mention the hockey playoffs. I mean, these playoffs, man, I need some sleep. They're just killing me. They're so good.
It's like hanging out with your friend on a Friday night, except you don't have to share your beer with us.
Yeah, except we post it on Monday. So you get a nice, fun ride in the car on Mondays.
I just want to say, if you're listening to this, you're a hockey fan, enjoy what you have right now because these have been some unbelievable hockey playoffs. 3 Game 7 overtimes. That's the first time it's ever happened, guys. So pick the team that you want to win and root for them and enjoy it and live life.
Yeah, that being said, I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan all the way. I always will be. I'll probably have some ink on my shoulder later this summer to prove it. If you've got some feedback or comments or anything you want to talk about or think I'm completely wrong about, you can find me on Twitter at Putty2773. That's at PUTTY2773. If you want to give Greg some shit for being a Patriots fan, you can find him.
GBishop72 at GBishop72.
Or just go to our podcast website as well, which is top5forfighting.com, which is top, the number 5, forfighting.com. So again, for myself, Mike, and Greg, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.